What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, and this is the T-Mobile Revvl 6 5G. And in this video, I'm going to be going over 7 reasons to avoid buying this device. So let's get started. Now, most videos that I create on the channel tend to point out the good things about every phone I cover, but I do like to do the series pointing out some of the things that I definitely think you want to be aware of in case you expect to find any of these features with this device. Now, keep in mind, this is a lower end phone. In fact, it features an MSRP of only $169, and I know lately this phone has been offered for free over at Metro. So you certainly shouldn't expect to get too many different things here with the phone, but at the same time, I want to point out some of the shortcomings so that you aren't potentially surprised if you happen to buy the device. Now, I'm going to start off with the biggest downside of this phone. This is actually something that I would expect to find with this device, even despite its lower price. And that is that there is no front-facing portrait mode here with the phone. Now, we do have portrait mode with the rear camera, which is great, but there is no portrait mode with the front-facing camera. Now, for some people, that might not be a problem at all, especially if you don't use that feature in your current phone. But if you are someone like me who does use portrait mode all the time, and especially the front camera, then this is a pretty big deal. And I've used portrait mode with phones that are significantly less expensive than even this device based on the MSRP. I've used phones that are $75, $50 that do have front-facing portrait mode. Now, sure, the feature doesn't necessarily work that well, but at least it is present. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So we're now in the camera app here, and you can see we have an option for live focus. So if you go there, you do get portrait mode with the rear camera, and there's even a slider here to adjust the blur. So that's really awesome. But then, if we head over to the front-facing camera, you can see there's me right there, and the quality is pretty good with the front camera, so I'll give them that. However, if you go to live focus, it flips around to the rear camera. So there is no front-facing portrait mode. And I've had this phone for several months now, so there have been several software updates, and they have not added that feature, which is a bit unfortunate. So just know that if that's really important to you, maybe that's a feature that you just expect to find with every Android phone, because literally 99% of the phones I've covered throughout this year do have front-facing portrait mode. Then just know that you're not getting that here. So if that's not relevant to you, then it's not relevant. It's not a problem. But if it is important, then I could see why you might want to avoid getting this phone. Now, the second thing I want to go over is the general design of this device. Now, I know most people that end up getting this phone probably just want a good, working, practical phone. They don't care so much about having a phone with the most innovative design, but at the same time, I will say, the design here is pretty bland and boring. So, for example, we have a water drop notch up top here and a thicker bottom bezel, and this general design has been repeated so many times over the years from a bunch of different companies. It's almost like all these companies build these same phones in the same factory with the same parts, just because of how similar they do appear. I've reviewed phones in 2018, 2019 that pretty much have the same design as this one. So there's certainly nothing innovative or new when it comes to the design of this phone. In addition to that, the build materials are not anything too special either. Now, I will give them some credit. They, of course, had to make this phone be made out of plastic considering the low MSRP of it. So that makes sense. And they actually did make it look pretty good for what it is. However, since it is made completely of plastic, keep in mind that you are going to want to pair it up with some sort of case, just so that the phone doesn't get too scratched up as time goes on. Now, coming in at number 3 does have to be the processor. Now, overall, I am pretty happy with the processor that we're getting here with the phone. It does perform decently well. However, keep in mind, it's certainly not necessarily that powerful either. So if you are expecting a phone that's very fast and runs very smoothly, then you're not necessarily getting that here with this phone. Now, it will accomplish kind of the bare minimum tasks, such as phone calls, text messages, even going on social media and browsing the web. That's going to work pretty well. But if you are someone that uses your phone all the time, maybe it's a very important part of your business, or maybe you're just literally always on your phone for whatever reason, then I can see the possibility of getting very frustrated about it not being that fast of a phone. Now, I did run a benchmark test using Geekbench 5, and here are the scores from that test. I got a single core score of 539 and a multi-core score of 1607. So what I recommend doing is running this test on your current phone and then compare your scores to these scores to get a better idea of how the T-Mobile Revvl 6 5G compares to the current phone that you do have, because it is possible that this phone could be slower than your current device. Now, coming in at number 4, and this is not a feature that I expect with this phone, but it might be something that you do want and you might assume that it has. That is that there is no HDMI out via the USB-C port. Now, again, typically in this price segment, you don't find that feature. But you might have a higher-end Android phone that's older now. Maybe you have a Galaxy S8, for example, and you don't want to buy another expensive device and you want to get something more affordable, then just know that you're not getting that feature. Now, thankfully, in late 2022, early 2023, we have a lot of options when it comes to displaying content on a TV. You don't really have to use HDMI out, especially if you have a streaming device such as a Chromecast. However, there certainly are different situations where having HDMI out would offer quite a few benefits. For example, whenever I'm at a hotel, I do like to use HDMI out because you usually can't use the local network in the hotel. You might be able to connect to their Wi-Fi, but you can't really pair up a Chromecast or anything like that. So that's one example, and overall, it's just nice to have that option. So just know that you're not getting that here. Now moving on to number 5, I already did kind of touch on this, but the build materials of the phone certainly are not very durable. It is made completely of plastic, so definitely remember that. Now number 6 is that there is no wireless charging with this phone. Now wireless charging typically is not found with very low-end devices, but at the same time, I think it is a feature that is important. So for me, I do have a variety of different wireless chargers around my home. I have one at my desk, I have one by my bed, I have one in the kitchen as well, and it is really nice just to kind of toss the phone on the wireless charger just to make sure that the battery is pretty much full at all times. Now, I don't mind plugging in directly, but I do like having the option. Another benefit of having wireless charging is that if for some reason your main charging port gets damaged, at least you have an alternative method to keep the phone charged up until you are able to get that repaired. So just know that there is no wireless charging with this device. However, if you want to go for the Revvl 6 Pro, kind of the bigger sibling compared to this phone, then just know that with that device, there is wireless charging. So at least we do have that option with different phones out there, but we're not getting that here with the regular T-Mobile Revvl 6 5G. And then for the final reason to avoid getting this phone, there is no 4K video recording. So I don't really expect to find that in a more affordable device like this one, but I have also seen some phones, maybe slightly more expensive than this one, have 4K video recording. So just know that there is no 4K video recording. Now, even though the display is limited at just 720p, we do at least have 1080p video recording. And it is important to have video recording in those higher resolutions, not so much to watch that content on the device's display itself, but many people, including myself, have 4K TVs nowadays. So it is nice to have the ability to record video in a resolution that your TV does max out at. So I do wish it had 4K video recording, but at the same time, I understand why it doesn't. But if any of these things were a surprise to you, then hopefully this video was helpful. I know that it can be kind of difficult to figure out what features these lower end Android devices are lacking. And overall, I feel like we are getting a lot. I mean, for how affordable this phone is, we're getting quite a few features here. So certainly not much room to complain when you factor in the price of the device. But again, I just want to make it clear that the phone is lacking some of those various things, so you don't potentially buy the phone and then find yourself being disappointed. But this concludes my video on 7 reasons to avoid getting the T-Mobile Revvl 6 5G. These are the worst things about it, so just know that if you get the phone, there really aren't any additional surprises or shortcomings that you'll find. So hopefully you liked the video. If you did, definitely give it a thumbs up. But this is Kevin here, and I will see you in the next one. Take care and have a great rest of your day.